here we go. Salute to Knicks Nation. Tuesday night Knicks. CP from KnicksFanTV checking in. And on tonight's episode, it's coming in hot and heavy. The NBA and the Players Association have come to an agreement on the season. We have a December 22nd start date, and a bunch of NBA offseason dates have finally been revealed. So on tonight's episode, we're going to break it all down for you, break down the salary cap number and the implications of that on the team. And CP3 to Phoenix. Could CP3 be going to the Valley of the Sun? And how do Knicks fans feel about that? So joining me tonight, my guy JB, a.k.a. Knicks Film School, a.k.a. Daily Knicks. He's all over the net. JB,
That's
how you
right.
feeling, man?
I'm doing good. I change my Twitter name every day, but I'm doing good.
A lot of aliases, man. A lot of aliases. All right, so let's break this thing down. Couple key dates. We have, obviously the draft is on November 18th.
Yep.
The trade moratorium could be lifted anywhere between the 16th, 17th, 18th, around that time. So That's when trades can start to happen. Again, we have the draft on the 18th. Knicks have the 8th, the 27th, and the 38th pick. Free agency starts November 20th, 6 p.m. We will be live on KnicksFanTV covering everything, all the moves, so make sure you keep it locked in. November 22nd is when the signings can be made official at 12 p.m. You have training camp starting December 1st, and then opening night December 22nd, man. JB, how do you feel about this expedited timeline? It seems like a Nick-like timeline, man.
No, it's just crazy. It goes from being the longest offseason ever to the shortest working offseason, right? Obviously the Knicks have been able to get coaches and execs, but not really any player movement. And now it all has to happen in, a month and a half.
That's a fact, man. Now, salary cap is set to 109. There was a lot of speculation that the number may drop and that may impact the way teams move in terms of free agency and the draft. But with the number basically the same as last year, how do you think that impacts things for the Knicks?
Yeah, I think the Knicks have always been in a good position coming into this offseason because they have the ability to create the most cap space. So the fact that, the cap doesn't rise at all, it puts the Knicks in a position, as we've seen reports come out, where, they could become that team that sort of greases the wheels for other teams to make moves because they can take salary in. If you use that 109 million cap hold number, and I have my little cheat sheet in front of me that I always put out, they could create over $42 million of cap space. It's not to say they're going to do that. That would mean they'd have to get rid of basically everyone on non-guaranteed contracts or team options and even Dotson. But the point is they can create a lot of cap space. So I think the number works in the Knicks' favor because, like I said, while everyone else, it's tight, they have plenty of room to work with.
Now, how about salary dumps? Because that was something that was mentioned a couple weeks ago by Ian Begley. Some of the fans want them to kind of weaponize the cap in that regard. Our guy Jeremy Cohen had come out, and a couple other guys, Bobby Marks as well, that was saying that, well, the market doesn't look too good in terms of salary dumps this year. What do you think about where this cap number is and how that impacts that type of transaction?
Well, yeah, I'll let people even throw in the chat what they think. To me, it's about how do you feel about not just this year, but in 2021, 22, going forward, multiple seasons taking on salary, right? So do you want to take on, pick any big name, like let's put Chris Paul aside, but whether it's a Russell Westbrook, Blake Griffin, do you want to take on that salary beyond even this year? And to me, the indications that I've seen at least is, the Knicks don't mind this year kind of punting on signing a big guy or going for a big trade. But I don't, and this is not saying that they're saving cap space to go over, to go for, the biggest star out there. It's just saying that I don't think they want to lose all their flexibility by taking on some contract that's got multiple years. So I think they're more going to look at, is there a guy they can take like a Mike Conley, or even a guy that's not on a big contract, but just a team needs to move to make whatever they're trying to do work, and they just need $10 million off their books, and the Knicks can come in and help them there.
Certainly need to look at a lot of the so-called contenders. Mike Scott's name is one that rang a bell for Philadelphia. There was a rumor going around Twitter yesterday that Philly could potentially be making Mike Scott available. He's making $5 million. He's got one more year left at $5 million. That rumor did have the Knicks potentially landing Mike Scott. So a little lower tier salary dump, if you will, but something that could still help the team. You know, 3-point gun. He's fairly tough, fairly durable. So Mike Scott wouldn't be a bad idea, depending on what the parameters of the trade were.
Yeah, no, I mean, and I think that's it. I think people are looking at, the extremes, right? Like what's a big contract, a big contract over $20 million that the Knicks can take. And with a team like Philly, they're looking at, Harris or someone like that. And it's like, well, yeah, why not? There's plenty of people out there making $5 to $10 million that, like I said, these teams trying to do other things. They just need that little bit of wiggle room. And that's where I think you're going to find the best deals in this market.
Yeah, find it in the margins, no doubt about it. Now, there wasn't a date official for the non-guaranteed contracts. We have a number of guys that are kind of floating around in terms of team options and non-guarantees. You have Portis, right. You have Theo Pinson on team options. Then you have the non-guaranteed contracts, Taj at 9.5, Wayne Ellington at 8, Peyton at 8, Bullock at 4.2. Of this crop, what do you think about this crop in terms of who's back and who's gone?
Well, this is where, to me, it gets interesting, because I think when people look at the Knicks cap space, they simply look at the salaries that could come off the books and then count up how much space that creates. So like I said earlier, they can create over $42 million in space. But then at that point, that sort of limits them to only being able to use that space to either sign a player or take a salary completely into cap space. I think another approach the Knicks could take, and when you think about, say, a Chris Paul or someone like that, is you actually keep some of these salaries on your books. So you keep an Elfrid Payton, you keep even a Bobby Portis. And it sounds crazy, like, well, why would you? Bobby Portis is $15 million. Why would you keep that on your books? Well, you can keep Bobby Portis on your books, still have over $20 million of cap space to go and sign people. But now you can trade Bobby Portis's, what will be an expiring contract, and take back 125% of that. So it's sort of like a tricky way to say, I'm going to spend my cap space up to the amount I want to spend it. And then I'm going to trade whoever I kind of keep on these one-year deals to get back even more salary to go over the cap. So I think it's possible you could see them do something like that. I know Jeremy Cohen we were talking about that today in terms of some trades they could work out. So I wouldn't just assume they're going to let everyone go to just completely open the books. I think they might try to use some of those salaries as expirings to make deals later on.
Yeah, and it might make sense, again, with this expedited time frame. It might make sense to go that route as well. And then with the salary cap not budging that much, a Portis 15 mil or a Peyton 9, it may not kill you, if you're another team out there looking to make a trade.
Yeah, no, exactly. And I think you can't underestimate the value of being able to move. I mean, Portis has a lot of money, but someone like a Peyton at $8 million,
yeah.
A team, there's some value for a team there on expiring deals. So those pieces you can use. It's sometimes easier to do that than to just try to acquire a player in the space.
Yeah.
And as we're saying this, by the way, MSG Training Center has been temporarily closed, the Knicks just announced, because Knicks employees tested positive for coronavirus.
Oh, wow. So there that is. Breaking news. Is that Tarrytown? Tarrytown.
Yes. Yep.
Okay. So Tarrytown is, because they did open the facilities last week,
right.
I believe, right? So
that's right.
Tarrytown is now closed because a few staffers tested positive for coronavirus. So stay tuned for the latest developments on that. Good, great job breaking that, JB. Very interesting. Hopefully, everybody comes out of that unscathed.
Yeah, no, hopefully. But this is the new, I guess, well, not the new normal for a lot of us. Have been living it through March, but just, as we get the news, the league's coming back. This is, this is what happens. So.
Yeah. And this is why I can see the heavy, divisional matchup, bubble style matchup, and even baseball. They're thinking even MLB series type of matchups, where teams are coming in town and playing the Knicks 3-4 game sweeps and then headed out. It's going to be very interesting to see how they navigate this with the virus still intact for sure.
Go on, yeah.
Yeah, salute to everybody in the chat. Hit that thumbs up button for you boys. Creeping up on 600 people in here. CP from KnicksFanTV checking in. My guy, JB, Jeff Bellone of Daily Knicks, Knicks Film School, you name it, on the check-in. Hit that thumbs up button for you boys one more time. Couple of upcoming shows for us. Obviously, we have the draft on November 18th. We have Ian Begley coming on November 17th, Draft Eve, so we'll talk more about the draft and free agency as well. And then, as I said, the free agency show on Friday, November 20th, man. So things are coming in hot. Stay tuned. Keep it locked to Knicks Fan TV for sure. All right, let's see what Woj is saying here on this CP3 trade, because Phoenix, I did look at Phoenix as a potential sleeper.
Yeah.
They played well in the bubble, didn't make the playoffs, but they were the hot team. And it looks like Phoenix wants to keep this going. They've always been looking for that point guard stabilization. Ricky Rubio came in, he did fairly well, but obviously CP3 being in another class and on his run, now they're talking that the Suns are having discussions with the Thunder on CP3. Well, what's your take on that, JB?
Yeah, well, we're going with all sorts of breaking news here, right? As we're recording, that just came out a little while ago.
Yeah, man.
So, I mean, the Suns, I mean, they went 8-0 in a bubble. We were talking about this a little before we started recording. What do you make of that? But obviously, with Booker, you want to get him, another player.
Got to keep him happy before he comes to the Knicks.
Yeah, that's right. Especially now with the new connections we got, right? So,
yeah.
But the Suns are also in a position where they have Frank Kaminsky at a $5 million team option. They can create up to $20 million in cap space depending on what they do with their team options. So they have some flexibility, especially considering they're going to send, they would obviously have to send something back. So I think as a Knicks fan, your first thought anytime you see another trade is, well, can the Knicks get involved to help this out? Maybe pull a draft pick or something out of this. I think if you're talking about the Suns, they're a team that cap-wise are pretty well positioned, to maybe make a deal work. That said, they don't have a lot. I'm looking at their roster now. They don't have a lot of large salaries on their books other than Booker. So they definitely would have to make sure they create that extra $20 million space and absorb a lot of that Paul contract in. But yeah, I mean, I think, we've seen with the Knicks, right? They're always a team that's used to help people like leverage and negotiations. And then we assume when the Knicks don't get the person, that is the only reason they were used. I do think the Knicks, because of Leon Rose, are serious about Chris Paul, but I think he's not going to budge and just make a deal to make a deal. So if the Suns end up, making a better offer, I'm fine with that.
Yeah, I mean, I'm good with it. Listen, I would love to have CP3 on the team. Obviously, I don't want to give up any young piece or draft pick. I could understand it. I feel like he would make our team that much better and really help our young guys, because as I said on the last show, building this team is about having options. And if your young guys aren't improving, if your young guys aren't developing, you don't have those options to go to if you need to make a trade that doesn't kill you, or, just overall improving the team. And so I think you need a guy like a CP3 that can make these guys better, because if they're not getting better, they're not helping you move the team forward in terms of wins or bringing back, building blocks that can make your team even better in the future.
Yeah, no, and I think, I've been one that I've been big about the positives of getting a Chris Paul. I think for the young players, it just, we saw Fizdale, as much as no one wants to hear from Fizdale right now, and everyone wants him to get a haircut too.
he's on his Bob Ross wave.
Yeah, which I can't say much because I'm letting my poof kind of pop up here too. But I think he raises the point that a lot of people get. It's one thing about going after a veteran player who's making a lot of money at the end of his career, which sounds LOL Knicks. Well, it's another, a veteran player who still has game left and who plays a position that would help develop the young players that you want to develop. And I think that's why this is not kind of same old Knicks if they're making this type of move, because Mitchell Robinson, RJ Barrett, if somehow they were to keep a Kevin Knox, those guys thrive with a player like Chris Paul playing with them. So I think that makes a lot of sense, but it just comes down to the price. You don't want to overpay for it either for a guy that you're helping them salary wise and obviously doesn't have a lot of years left.
Absolutely, man. Let's go to the phones, see what the fans have to say. Let's go to my guy Frank from Colorado. He's been beasting to come on all day. Frank, what's going on, man? How you feeling?
What's going on, CP? How you guys doing?
Doing all right, man. Let's hear it, Frank. How you feeling, bro?
Hey, man. I've been telling you since prior to the bubble that your man Brody is going to be in a Knicks jersey. I keep telling you. The chat called me a crackhead. Now who's looking like New Jack City Pookie now? I'm telling y'all right now, man. Leon Rose was brought here to absolutely bring a superstar in here. James Dolan wants it. He doesn't want to be the whipping boy for the media. Tom Thibodeau ain't trying to lose no 50-plus games. To me, this thing is going to make a lot of sense. I don't want it to happen. I just think it's going to happen because we're thinking too much from a fan's perspective and not from the business side. This is good for the business of James Dolan, but it's not good for the fans, and it's not good for the basketball side. And I want to leave you, if we do get Russell Westbrook, R.I.P. to R.J. Barrett's development. Holla at you.
That's a fact. So Frank doesn't want Brody to make the team better. He just wants Brody so he can be proven right. But Kevin O'Connor, the Ringer, he claims that there's sources out there linking Brody to the Knicks, maybe even the Clippers. I'm not with it, man. I'm just not with it. What do you think about it? I mean, from a business sense, though, I don't see much of it either, man. With no fans.
I get the point. I mean, I guess you could argue MSG networks because look, if there's fans, it's going to be very limited. So are you going to say that maybe more than ever? Because the whole theory with Dolan is, I mean, they can just keep putting out a terrible product and people still come to the arena, both because there's diehard Knicks fans and because there's tourists and rich people who just pay to go there, right? Well, this year you might not have that. So you have television ratings where I think you do have, that is more contingent on having a good team or having star power. But I don't think that's enough that you say, go get a Russell Westbrook, where everything we were saying about Chris Paul, yeah, he plays the right position, but he doesn't bring the right type of game and he doesn't play at the same type of level as Chris Paul.
Yeah, I agree with you there. But we'll see what happens, Frank, man. Definitely appreciate the call. Shout out everybody in the chat. Hit that thumbs up button for you boys once again. Climbing up to 880 in the chat right now. The chat is buzzing. Everybody wants to talk Knicks offseason. It's coming in hot and heavy. I want to shout out Mellow Fellow 78 in the chat. Shout out to John Talento, all the mods. Moises Rosario, what's going on? Shan BK, how you feeling? All right, let's get back to the calls. Let's go to Graham from New York. Graham, how you feeling, bro?
Hi there.
All right. He sounds a little young. Let's go to Ari. Ari, what's going on, man? Ari, what up?
Was it like a 5-year-old trying to call?
Yeah, I don't know, man. I wasn't taking that one, man. I wasn't too sure about that one. But what's going on?
Not much, man. So yeah, I don't know who's that call. That caller said Russell Westbrook's coming to the Knicks. I'll tell you right now, Russell Westbrook comes to the Knicks. There's no more Ari on KnicksFanTV. I'm calling it quits.
He's handing in the medallion.
I'm putting it on pause for 4 years. If Russell Westbrook comes to the Knicks, I could give you a million different ways to spend $45 million better than just giving it to Russell Westbrook and having him run and shoot the ball 90% of the time and stunt everybody else's growth and become an 8 seed and then get stuck in mediocrity forever and get no lottery picks and get swept in the first round. That is the worst take ever. That's the same thing like Mr. San Diego's take. Get Russell Westbrook. Horrible take. Chris Paul is a much better option. His deal is much more team. It's an expensive deal, but it's only a 2-year deal. He actually makes the players around him better. And this is what the San Diego kid said, that I'm trying to tank. I'm not trying to tank. I just don't think $45 million, giving $45 million to Russell Westbrook as a 31-year-old on the backside of his career, seeing how exposed he got in the playoffs because he can't shoot the ball is the best way to spend the money. I would rather give it to Chris Paul, have him develop the players because he'll get the entire team to perform better because he's a real leader. He's a true point guard. Everyone's shooting percentage will go up with because of Chris Paul. He'll hold everyone accountable, and he won't shoot the ball every time, all right? So I don't want to tank, but I just don't think Russell Westbrook is the answer. I know Russell Westbrook's not the answer. So, you know, that's my take with that. What else? The other thing I wanted to say is that it's very, like, here's the thing. The Knicks have to decide if we're going to try to make a run on the 2021 free agents or not. If we're not trying to make a run on the 2021 free agents, then we should just take as much bad contracts as possible for 2 years or shorter and acquire assets. But if we're not going to go for the 2021 free agency, well, I mean, if we are going to go for the 2021 free agency, then we should try to make a move for Chris Paul or try to package some assets for another All-Star. But Russell Westbrook is not. That's just terrible. I can't even get into that. And then the last thing I want to say is that I think it's very, very important that Julius Randle is off this team before the first day of the season, because like Jay Ellis was saying the last time he was on, you know, we need to feature R.J. Barrett or, you know, whoever the star player we bring in is. We cannot have Julius Randle shooting the ball, turning the ball over, and messing with, you know, the team chemistry. So I would get rid of him too. But definitely no Westbrook. I'm down for Chris Paul, and Randle has to go before the beginning of the season. That's my take.
All right. Ari coming with the smoke.
Yeah, I was gonna say I like those. Well, did you see today that when they announced that everything was official, the Knicks tweeted out "We back," and they had Mitch, RJ, and Randall in there, and I had to tweet out. I'm like, don't put
that a sign when marketing is on board? Is that a sign from the top?
Yeah, no, I don't know. But, it's funny. People were like, why are you getting on Randall? Like, there's Randall defenders. I'm not saying Randall is not a good player in the right role. I'm just saying I'm not excited about Julius Randle being, a piece on this team right now. Maybe depending on how they redo the whole roster this offseason, he finds the right role. Great, that's fine. But he doesn't get me excited for Knicks basketball.
Yeah, I agree. And for the Randall hater, well, not for the Randall hater, for the Randall defender, right? I think they get it misconstrued that it's hate, that you trash Randall because he stinks, and it's not even that at all. I think there is talent there. There's a lot of talent there with Randall that I like, but again, his role is just very iffy, and I think he came here in, again, that Tim Hardaway Jr. position where you're counted on to be that guy, and that's not your role. You know what I'm saying? Your role is the third or fourth guy. Like I said, 6-man would be ideal for me, but to come in here and have to be that guy, especially when RJ's here, you got another draft pick coming in at 8. I think, again, not having that true floor general, that true point guard or true leader of the team, I think that's what hurt us where Randall was concerned.
Yep.
Absolutely, man. So to everybody in the chat once again, let's see how we're doing in the chat. 1,000. Hit 1,000 people in the chat. We are in here heavy. Welcome to everybody on Team #New. If you guys are new in the chat, leave us a #New and we'll shout you guys out. Remember, these shows are available in audio podcast format: Spotify, Apple Podcasts, Google Play, Amazon Alexa, and Stitcher. So you have no excuse to miss any show. Remember, Ian Begley coming November 17th. That's a week from today. And then we have our NBA draft show on the 18th as well. So a lot happening within the next week.
Week. It really is.
Yeah, within the next week, bro. This thing is coming in crazy. All right, let's talk to Justin from Baltimore. I haven't heard from Justin in a minute. How you feeling, bro?
What's going on, man? How y'all been, man? What's up, CP?
What's going on, bro?
I work the elections down here in Maryland, so that's why I've been gone. I ain't been able to talk to y'all.
Okay.
But I wanted to discuss the CNA rumor, Obi Toppin. The Knicks taking interest. It's kind of interesting to me that now it's being put out that they're interested in him. I would like to see what y'all thought of that. And if so, do you think the Knicks can try to get a point guard in their in between 14 area for nice trade. See, they can get Tyrell Terry in between that 14, like 20 pick.
Yeah.
And that's pretty much all I have to say, man.
Okay.
I'm just ready for the 18th. I'm excited.
Me too.
I can't wait to see what's going to happen with the Knicks, man.
Me too.
Peace. I appreciate y'all having me on.
Appreciate it, Justin.
What's up, Jeff?
Appreciate it.
What's up, man? And hey, appreciate you doing the election and whether you're a poll worker or whatever you are.
Doing the civic duty, man. He said
That's
Knicks
right.
Fan TV's got to wait. We got to make sure all these votes count.
No, I know. Well, no, the thing with me when watching this whole thing unfold, it's like, forget the politicians. It's like the people doing that work, they're the real heroes to me. So in all seriousness, appreciate that.
Yeah, absolutely, man. Great job, bro. Definitely great job. On the Obi front, I think it was Jonathan Givenoy. I don't know if that's his last name, from Draft Express. He was on, I forget which podcast recently this week, and said that, you know, because of the relationship between Leon Rose and Obi Toppin, essentially recruiting him, Obi Toppin being a CAA client, that he felt like, you know, that's Leon's guy in the draft. Obviously, he's the safest pick where Leon is concerned. He has all the intel on him being a CAA guy. He knows him the best out of any prospect. I always felt like if he's there at 8, they're going to take him. But, you know, from the guys I'm speaking to, they don't feel like he's going to be there. A lot of mock drafts have Cleveland taking him at 5. I saw some with Atlanta, some with the Bulls. But I think if he's there at 8, I think the Knicks do take him.
Yeah, no, I agree. And even shout out Jonathan Macri, Knicks Film School buddy there. He has said the same thing, that, you know, if Toppin's there, the Knicks are going to take him. But I just don't see that he's there. You know, I don't think he's there. But, you know, should the Knicks trade up to get him? I think if they're trading up, they're going more for, you know, what's interesting is, you know, with LaMelo Ball, there was so much noise about their interest in him, you know, early on, and that's really died down. Like, we haven't heard anything. And it's funny, it's easy for us, like from afar, to view based on the rumors. Like, if you hear something, if the Knicks were to do something we're not hearing rumors about, it's like, oh, that came out of nowhere. When in reality, it's like, well, we know half of these rumors are nonsense.
Right.
Maybe it's just Rose didn't leak it out. But I don't think they're trading up to get like a top. And I think they would only do that, you know, more for like a guard that they like.
I agree. And you know, the draft stuff, I'm just ready for the 18th, man, because the draft stuff is all over the place. You know, one day you're hearing LaMelo could slip. Next day you're hearing he's a lock at number 1 to Minnesota. So it's all over the place, man. I wouldn't be surprised if either one happens. You know, I wouldn't be surprised if Minnesota takes him, although I like Edwards better for them, and I wouldn't be surprised if he slips. One other quick note on the salary cap thing is that teams that are closing in on the luxury tax or facing luxury tax stand to benefit, because a part of the new agreement is that depending on how much your luxury tax bill is, it will decrease by the amount of revenue loss by the league. Your basketball, I think it's BRI, basketball related, your basketball related income. So teams like the Warriors, teams like Milwaukee Bucks, 76ers, they could stand to benefit this free agency by having a lower tax bill or none at all.
Yeah, no, absolutely. And I think teams still don't, you know, generally don't want to be over the tax. The other thing to consider is just sort of the mechanics of how transactions work in terms of what you have available to you as a team that's over the cap, whether you have the non-taxpayer mid-level exception, which is around like $9-10 million, versus the taxpayer if you're over the tax, which cuts that in half. And then also whether you then get capped at the apron, which is about $6 million above the tax. So to me, it's one thing about teams just not wanting to pay the amount, and you know how the league helps them out with that, with the times we're in, is one thing. But it's also about what you can do, how that limits the signings you can make as a team that's looking to add that one more piece. And I think because so many teams are right up against the cap, that mid-level exception amount becomes very competitive for a lot of players who kind of fit nicely in that space. One of them who is tied to the Knicks recently, I think, is Justin Holiday. So so that's something to watch too. Sort of whether the team has the taxpayer mid-level or the non-taxpayer, because that makes a big difference in terms of if they can add that final piece.
I agree, and Holiday was linked to the Knicks. I wouldn't mind bringing Holiday back. I felt like they should have never let him go when they decided to keep Ron Baker over him. And then Michael Kidd Gilchrist was also linked to the Knicks. I said hell no on that, no chance. I'm on the Ari train. If they bring in MGK, I might be out of here, man. I might be gone.
Yeah. Well, that will be though. I think how much is that really going to cost? So if if he becomes like the last guy they sign in,
right.
But
low end rotation guy, plays some defense, could be a good practice player for him.
Right.
Too much
but if they pay,
JB, I don't know, man.
But yeah, if they pay too much, if they pay anything over that, just for what we just described, I can see what you're saying.
Yeah, it's just too much New York bricks, man. I'm getting nightmares over here. I need a shooter. I need a shooter in here desperately. Let's keep it in the Poconos. Let's go to the Poconos. Josh in the building. What's going on, man?
I'm CP3. CP, what's going on?
How you feeling, bro?
Good, man. Do you guys really think it's realistic that CP3 might come to the Garden for real?
I mean, I think anything's possible. One of the things we're just not sure what the Knicks are thinking. Again, what is CP3's motivation? Right. Does he want to come to a basement dweller like the Knicks, or does he want to try to compete for something? I don't think it's all clear. So I think anything's possible.
Yeah, no, I agree.
What do you think we would be able to give up, though? I'd give away like a Knox, a Dennis Smith. You know what I mean? But do you really think my question is, how many years are we going to have him for? 2?
Yeah, it would be the 2 years left on the deal at 80-something million, 85 million, I believe.
Yeah, right. It's 2 years. And then I think that, to me, we've heard Knox. We've heard one of the Dallas first-round picks.
Yeah.
I think the Knicks are trying to maybe get another salary in there. So if they could somehow get Julius Randle, because remember, Randle, his deal looks bad, but he only has in the second year, I think it's $4 million guaranteed. So it's not that bad of a deal, but I think,
it's not bad.
Right. So I think with the Knicks, it's like, it's one thing about getting Paul, but it's another about like, can you move Randle, whether in that deal or in a separate deal, to give you some more flexibility to put talent around him.
Yeah, you need
beyond the young guys.
Randle would have to be in that deal for me. Again, not happy about losing young guys, but if you're gonna have to trade Knox, considering there's a good chance you're gonna end up with a wing in the draft, whether it's Vassell, whether it's Okoro, I think Knox's playing time is gonna be an issue anyway. So, if they have to do it, I wouldn't like it, but it is what it is. For CP3, I would take it.
Right. One other question.
Yeah, go ahead, bro.
How do you guys think that Obi would fit next to Mitch?
Listen, I think defensively, that was where Mitch could help him. Obviously, defense is Obi's biggest weakness, and I think that's where Mitch can kind of help cover him.
Right.
Especially from a team defense standpoint. And offensively, I think if he could step it outside, he shot 40% from 3. So I think if he can maintain that spacing, I think it'd be fine. I think that pairing would be okay. JB, what do you think?
Yeah, I think it can work, especially he's obviously young. Both of them are young players. They can evolve around each other. But I do think that you're making that pick more of like, you just think this guy is going to, because remember, when we're looking at the draft, we're all like, well, who fits?
Yeah.
And, who do we like? It's like every time that when we look back, like 5-10 years from now, when we look back at the drafts, all you're doing is you're saying who turned out to be good. So meaning, does he end up being like an all-star player? Then you don't really care how he necessarily fit, because you're going to look at these picks and you're going to say, geez, Toppin was the only guy of the top 8 that turned out to be any good. That's usually kind of how it goes. So to me, it's like, I'm really looking at it in terms of, do you think he can develop into that type of a player? And I'm less worried about how he'll fit in like the next year or two, where, quite honestly, with Mitch, he's still learning.
Yeah.
He's still learning how to stay out of foul trouble, how to stay on the floor. Like he's got a lot to go. So I'm not going to like prevent myself from drafting a player I think is good, when I don't even know 100% sure that Mitch is necessarily I'm a big Mitch fan, but I'm just saying you don't know that 100% sure.
roster's so much in flux that I think we do kind of get caught up in fitting a lot of these prospects with what's on the roster right now, even outside of RJ and Mitch. You know, so sometimes you look at it and say, yeah, it's not that great of a fit. But, you know, even in Okoro's even in Okoro's case, you know, the shooting, again, is a big concern for me because I don't like the fact that you have him and RJ out there shooting 60-something% from the free throw line and getting to the bucket is the name of their game. But I do feel like, you know, Tibbs' success here is going to be predicated, yes, by wins and losses, but also how well we play defense. And in an Okoro type for Tibbs to go out there and get kind of his quarterback of the defense, you know, that's going to get out there, execute, be able to help on the weak side, you know, whatever Tibbs has in store, whatever defensive schemes he has drawn up, to have your players out there that can execute will certainly be a benefit. So I wouldn't count Okoro out for the Knicks at 8 for that reason.
Yeah, no, absolutely. I think, you know, and taking a wing player that gives you, you know, we're talking about fit. If we do go back to that, you know, it gives you some versatility in how that player ends out evolving into your lineup versus if you go, you know, with a big that you're kind of limited in terms of, you know, because you know you have Mitch there, right? So, you know, I could see Okoro being a pick for them.
Yeah, I agree. Listen, like I said, the shooting it's a little iffy, man, but I could see it happening though.
We're just all begging for shooting at this point.
We need shooting.
Like,
we need shooting.
Yeah.
And speaking of which, my guy, top of my list is Davis Bertans, because it was reported earlier this week by NBA Sports down in DC that there's a number of teams looking for Bertans, not just in free agency, but potentially signing trades.
Mm-hmm.
So his market could be heating up. But, I mean, when you talk about three-point guns, I don't think it gets any better than this in this free agent crop, man. What's your take on Bertans?
Yeah, no, and I think he sat out in the bubble, right? Because he kind of knew this payday was coming. He didn't want to risk it. I mean, we saw like someone like Steve Novak come in here, and shoot lights out. I go back and forth sometimes with how you feel the shooting, where it's like, do I want to pay?
How much do you pay for that?
Yeah, like, do I want to pay a big amount for something that I can maybe find in the draft? I can maybe find a guy who he doesn't do a whole lot else, but he's going to come in, he's going to stretch the floor for me. And even some of these veteran guys, I mean, I think, you know, again, you can't say, you know, Carmelo Anthony's name without having all this other stuff wrapped around it. But it's just like, you can get veteran shooters relatively cheap that will come in and maybe he's not the perfect example, but I'm just trying to say you can get guys, you know, who can still shoot towards the end of their career to come in. I don't know if I would want to overpay.
I feel like you're gonna have to
that premium. But yeah, no, you're right. But like someone like a Joe Harris, I mean, look, we know the Nets are up against attacks. Maybe that matters, maybe it doesn't, but it's going to be really expensive to keep him.
Yeah.
I like, you know, making an offer, you know, going that way. But like I said, I just hesitate a little bit in terms of like, you know, we need shooting, so let's just like overpay for the best possible shooter out there. And that's like really what he does is shoot. And it's just like, you know, you need shooters around your star players. And they shouldn't be the ones that end up being the most expensive guys on your roster.
Yeah, especially for him. He's a specialty guy. Really doesn't do much else. Defense,
right.
You know, you can bully ball him. 56% from the corners last 2 seasons, 75% from 30 feet and beyond, and 42% overall in 8.7 attempts. It's enticing, man. It's definitely
well,
enticing.
that attempt number, I mean, geez, I guess I'm still old where I'm like, when I see those numbers, it still jumps out at me. Like, that's crazy.
He only averaged 2 twos a game.
Yeah, I mean, it's just crazy.
2.3 per game and 8.7 threes. He's letting it fly, JP. I'm with you. But yeah, Harris would be nice because, you know, just a better all-around player. And I like his grittiness as well. For me, the Nets, I'm eagerly anticipating what they do if they go get Drew Holiday and, you know, how that impacts Harris. I want to see how if Harris shakes loose and if they trade Dinwiddie. I'd love to see them trade Dinwiddie for talking all that nonsense against the Knicks. I'd love to see him get shipped out to Siberia. The architect of the KD deal, and see him, stick a knife in his back and send him out west. Let's see how that works. So to everybody in the chat, hit that thumbs up button for you boys again. 1,200 people on the check-in. CP from KnicksFanTV checking in. My guy, JB, Jeff Bellone of Daily Knicks Film School as well. Make sure you follow them on Twitter, subscribe to the newsletter and everything. Make sure you subscribe to the channel as well. All right, a couple more calls. Let's go to Josh from San Diego. Josh, what's going on, bro?
CP, JB, how y'all doing today, man?
Good, man. What's going on, bro?
Not much. So it's just a couple things I want to say. I mean, everyone in the chat knows I'm for the Russell Westbrook trade or even the Chris Paul trade. I think you can't go wrong with either one because the Knicks need, first and foremost, a talent upgrade. There's some significant talent missing on this roster, and I feel like going out and getting one of those guys definitely improves the team from a talent standpoint. Second of all, the notion that it's somehow Russell Westbrook's fault that Houston didn't get past the Lakers or that they fell on their face in the playoffs is absolutely absurd. He was playing in the Mike D'Antoni system. They had him sometimes playing as the 5. Houston didn't have any type of bigs, and there's no way they were going to beat the Lakers. The Lakers had 3 legit bigs that they can legitimately put out there to dominate in the paint. So how can you blame Russell Westbrook as if it was his fault that Houston didn't do well in the playoffs? Okay, that's number one. Number two, I feel like Russell Westbrook's ability to be that engine will galvanize the troops around him and help RJ Barrett more than it would hinder him. If Russell Westbrook is coming to this team by himself, the Knicks need to put some shooters around him because I feel like putting shooters around would definitely, improve everyone's situation on the team. If the Knicks had sufficient shooting last season, everything would have been way better. We wouldn't be having this conversation. But blaming Julius Randle and saying players like Russell Westbrook would hinder RJ Barrett's, his future, I just don't think that's true. I think we need to look at it in a more realistic sense and, continue to build a roster. Russell Westbrook it's not an end-all, be-all for this team. Chris Paul's not an end-all, be-all for this team. We still need shooting, just like you guys said.
Yeah.
So I'm for Russell Westbrook coming here and Chris Paul and anybody that can definitely make the talent better on this team because that's at the end of the day is going to make us go further.
Yeah, but I think you need a guy that's more efficient. That's my only problem with Westbrook as compared to CP3. CP3 is going to give you that off-ball scoring capability and just a better overall point guard. It's not to say Westbrook's not a scrub. It's not about that. But again, when you're coming in here with RJ Barrett, you're coming in here with Mitch, those guys need that time to shine. And I just think CP3 would be a better overall fit than Westbrook. For $45 million, I'm not paying Westbrook that amount of money for his type of game. That's just my issue.
Yeah, no, and to me, 2 things. One is I agree that they need talent, and I think Knicks fans, there's a large group, especially on Twitter, that it's like the idea that like the Knicks could like acquire a veteran talent is just always bad. It's got to be all through the draft or nothing. And it's like, no, you need to put talent around your young players to help develop them. So I agree with that point. I guess with Westbrook versus Paul, even if we put aside, so even if we agree to disagree on maybe like how much value they respectively would add to the team as players, you just look at their contracts. Westbrook has that extra year. So the question is, would you sign him? If he was a free agent, would you sign him for 3 years, $132 million? Because that's what he has coming to him. 3 years, $132 million. No one would sign that contract. So then you're saying, well, are you getting a sweetener when you make a deal? Are you getting some draft picks? So
they have nothing left.
That's the concern.
Left to give?
Right.
Rockets.
No, I mean, right. They don't. Right. So it's just like, to me, if you took off that player option that he's gotten at last year, where it's $47 million, and it was similar to Chris Paul, where it was just the 2 years, then I think you can have a better comparison over, which game you prefer, and we could get into all that. But when you add that 3rd year, it makes it really hard for me to justify it.
I can't do it, man. I'm with you, Josh. We need talent. I'm with Josh, of course. I watch his team every night. They stink. They're terrible. You know what I'm
and
saying?
you got to talk about them every night.
They're terrible, man. We still got Alfred Payton. We got to get him out of here. Come on, man. I know the pain. We need a talent influx badly, but I'm just not feeling it with Brody, man. I'm just not feeling it. I'm not there. So I don't know. We'll see what happens. JB, how you looking on time, man? You good for one more call?
Yeah, well, we got a full chat. Let's go.
All right, yeah, we got 1340 in the chat. All the way, we're climbing all the way up, man. I think Ari's call might have set off the chat. You know, people started sharing the video once Ari came in and laid down the law. Him and Josh, they kind of have like this little beef. We got some beef cooking with Josh from San Diego and Ari. They're on a collision course for the battle of the fans. But we're gonna, you know, we just got to build it up properly before we, you know, set it off. So that's gonna be coming up soon. All right. Let's go to Chris, my guy Chris, San Antonio. What's going on, bro?
Hey, how you doing, CP and JB? How you doing?
Good, man.
Hey,
what's going on, bro?
I'm doing pretty good. I was calling because I want to talk about Kyra again. I have a wish to manifest him as the 8th pick, so I wanted to ask both of your opinions on something. I was reading an article from Adler Almo from Empire Sports Media, and he was giving some good insights and some background on Kyra. And one of the things that I thought was funny, a funny takeaway from that, was Coach Nate Oates had called a few times and talked about him, and he mentioned that his coaching philosophy was max effort, continuous growth, and selfless love. Whatever that means, I think that's kind of interesting and funny, but I think it's really good that he had them playing that NBA fast-paced offense, and I think that that's something that Kyra can translate. You guys were talking a little bit about shooting. We need shooting on the team, and I think that that's an underrated part of his game. An underrated part of his game. A lot of people think that his speed stands out, but I think his catch and shoot is definitely high percentile, and I noticed from some charts that I saw that his corner threes are 57%. So I think he's a bucket from out there too. I also think something that's not being really magnified as much as it should is how early he went to college. That article also touched on that. He was 17 his entire freshman year, and they talked about how he was a bit shy, going to college. I get shy calling into the show, so I can understand being a starting point guard and an SEC team at 17. I'm wondering what you guys think about that. And I noticed his growth, obviously, between years. And at the end of this year, you've seen a lot of growth from the beginning of the year, especially from having a new coach and Coach Nate Oates. He definitely is a player I think we should target. And I think the biggest thing about that is that he shows a lot of interest in New York. The fact that they had the FaceTimes and Coach Nate Oates continues to talk about him in regards to New York, with the dinner especially as well. I'm wondering if any other prospect has that kind of relationship and how you guys feel about him kind of showing that interest in wanting to come to New York, because I think it's definitely real. I don't think he just wants to come to New York, to try to raise his draft back. I think it's something that he wants to do, as we can see from the fact that he, stayed in college an extra year, and the fact that he went to college early. I think that shows that he makes these kind of decisions based off basketball and not just off of popularity or the outside noise in New York.
Yeah, could, man. Appreciate the call. I mean, clearly they're into him, right? They met with him twice. They went to his workout. They went out to dinner with him, called Nate Oates on the phone as well. We know Phoenix has met with him twice. I haven't heard of the other, because they were allowed 10 workouts during this whole period. I haven't heard who else they viewed or who else they brought in outside of Lewis. But clearly the interest is there. So let's see what happens.
Yeah, no, and I think, I always say I'm by far no draft expert, so I can't sit here and tell you why he's better or worse than anyone else. But, just reading the scouting reports like you are, the caller, I'm sorry, I forgot your name, but it's definitely a lot of intrigue there. How much emphasis, how much importance you put on, it sounds like he wants to play here. I'm always a little skeptical of that, because as a Knicks fan, we've lived through too many press conferences, whether it's coaches or players talking about their dream to play here, and it doesn't always amount to much. But that said, you do want to, I think, look at a demeanor of a player that they can, like you said, when they're young, can they handle the pressure? Because it is different to playing here than going someplace like Charlotte where you can kind of disappear into the backdrop.
Big time.
So I do think that is important.
Big time. But and what I've gotten from a lot of the scouts that have come on here and talked about these prospects is that intangibles is going to take you far in this draft. Whether they talk about a Halliburton or safe players like an Obi and so on. Character is going to matter. Work ethic is going to matter. Those type of intangibles is going to matter. What you're hearing from Kyra Lewis is that he has all of it. We'll see come November 18th whether or not the Knicks feel the same way, man. So let me just hit this read real quick. Salute to everybody in the chat. Hit that thumbs up button for you boys. Now, JB, autumn is in the air, and Manscaped is here to ensure that you don't carve your pumpkins the wrong way, and that's with the Lawnmower 3.0, presented by Manscaped, sponsor of the show. Guys, this is the ultimate men's grooming tool below the waist. It comes with an aerodynamic shape, has the grips here, wireless, LED light, extra battery life on the wireless, so you're good to go. You can use it in the shower. It's also waterproof. And again, it comes with a ceramic blade technology that prevents nicks. So very important, fellas. When you leave that quarantine, man, the weather's it's fall weather now. We're getting into Thanksgiving. When you go out on that date, make sure you come well prepared, and that's with the Lawnmower 3.0. And tonight, if you go to manscaped.com and enter promo code Knicks, you'll get New York Knicks, not Manscaped Knicks, New York Knicks. You'll get 20% off. Plus free shipping. Let's go to manscaped.com, enter promo code Knicks for 20% off plus free shipping. All right, just have to pay the bills real quick. One more call for JB. Let's go to JB. J Boogie in North Carolina. What's going on, bro?
What's good, everybody? CP. My man JB, the whole wave, everything, KnicksFanTV. Hope everybody's staying healthy and safe. Y'all know my lingo, man.
Yes, sir.
God bless. We got a new presidency. I haven't spoken to y'all since then, you know what I'm saying? But shout that out, too. Just to throw something out real quick and easy to y'all, because, I'm down here in NC for those that don't know. Hey, that boy Ingram won his own team. I'm just going to throw that out there. He won his own team. Now, my man that's talking about the chat, we calling you Pookie and stuff, take him downstairs and blow the building 3 times. We don't need no Russell Westbrook on this team. James Dolan do not need no business. The Garden been sold out during our worstest years. We need a team in Madison Square Garden. We don't need a name. We need a team. And if we go get a veteran player, the only veteran player we can get on this team is CP3 because he know how to make the team better. He know how to make the locker room come together. He know how to do all that. Don't forget what he did with them bums down there in New Orleans. He should have been MVP that year. This year, what he did in Oklahoma, that was crazy. But I'm with you, CP. I like that boy Bertans. I like him. That's a good free agent signing. But our number 3 and our number 5, that's our future. That's all Barrett and that's Mitchell. That's our future. 3 and the 5 is sold up. But you can put that boy Bertans, and I keep telling y'all about that boy Naismith. The boy averaged 23 points a game. He shot 52% from the trade point line. He averaged 6 rebounds per game and 1 block. That is the young Klay Thompson. He's a sniper. We need a sniper. I need CP. Bring CP to run that and go ahead and grab Trey Young later on at 27. And then in the second round, go ahead and grab that boy quickly. That's 2 young guards that he could take up on his wing. And I'm going to let y'all know another little secret. CP only want to go to New York, and he only want to go to L.A. Don't be surprised if he opts out in New York for the 21 free agency and bring some other players to come with him. That's what nobody is not looking at. CP don't need no money. CP is already rich. CP want his own thing. And if he come to New York, I would not be shocked if he opt out for 2021 and bring a couple more players with him and get the Garden back on fire, man. Shout out to y'all. Y'all take care of yourself. Peace and love, man.
J Boogie's ready to go.
He's ready for the season.
Yeah, man, that's my guy. He's always coming in with the intel. He's from North Carolina. Has some people in the game. Big Stackhouse fan. Neesmith is along the same lines as a Bertans.
Yeah.
as you see what's the guy from Miami's name? Duncan Robinson. You know, all the publicity he's gotten. We'll see how high that takes him in the draft. Neesmith, you know, another guy that people feel like is more of a specialty player, but, you know, elite shooting. You know, what will the price be on elite shooting, whether it's in the draft with Neesmith, with Bain, with Isaiah Joe? You know, you're hearing those type of names and free agency as well. So, Jay Boogie thinks CP3 is destined for the Garden, man. We shall see. We shall see, man. Well, JB, I definitely appreciate you giving us some time, man. This was a great show. Time definitely ran up fairly quick. I'm gonna throw it over to you. Just let the fans know where they can find you, bro.
Yeah, no, we just this past week, Jonathan Macri writing a newsletter. If you're following this show, I think you probably know him. But through Knicks Film School, it's going to be paid. You know, the man deserves to make some money off this hard work he's been doing for a long time. But check out the newsletter at knicksfilmschool.substack.com. To me, it's more than worth it. You're getting an email every single day, and you're getting an in-depth article from him. I'll be helping him out a little bit when the season starts, back to my film breakdowns. So you get a lot there. So I'm promoting that tonight for Macri. So check that out. And then also, if you are a fan of the original Knicks Film School Twitter account, the one that got suspended right before free agency in 2019 and told us that good things weren't coming, we brought that back. But now we're at Knicks School. Before it was at Knicks Film School, but now it's at Knicks School. So check that out, because it'll be, just like the old days where we're putting out all the news out there, and then also film as we get into the season. But yeah, thanks for having me on, CP. This was fun.
Yeah, man, absolutely. And I think last year you were the first one that came on the show, or maybe a couple years ago when Knicks Film School really started, and but because there was no face behind the name. I think you're the first one, man. So we unmasked the Knicks Film School, and as he said, man, make sure you guys sign up for the newsletter. Macri, JB, they all do excellent work, man, and that's why I always love to bring these guys onto the show and provide some insights. Tomorrow night's show, CK2K is gonna be joining me, and my guy Corey Talbot of the Hardwood Herald. The last show in the draft. We're going to go heavy draft. We're going to do a round one mock draft. So those of you that couldn't get your calls in on the draft, tomorrow night is your night. We're going to go back to the draft tomorrow night. And as I said, a week from today, we got Ian Begley November 17th. We have our draft live stream November 18th and the free agency show on November 20th. So keep it locked. Definitely not going to miss it. We're going to have a ton of guests in and out of here giving reactions and breakdowns to everything. And yeah, man, remember, hit that thumbs up button for you boys. Subscribe to the channels. This is available in audio podcast format as well. 1,200 in the chat. Number one show for the fans, by the fans. Salute to all the mods. I appreciate it. Salute to Jason Martin, SR, appreciate it. Pedro Perez, definitely appreciate it. Alexander Lopez, Paul Quick, West Coast, salute. It's me. See you guys tomorrow, man. Andrew H, appreciate it, man. Tomorrow, same time, 9 o'clock.